Welcome back to GameDev Revealed. I am James, and also my gamer tag is The Brink. And we're going to be doing our first Devlog update. Many to come, hopefully not hundreds, because I do this weekly. I'm fine with doing hundreds. I just want this game that I'm working on to be done within probably 100. So, yeah, that being said, what this devlog is going to be is an introduction to the whole system, what we're going to probably be doing, and we'll probably fine-tune it over the months and years, is that I am going to show you what I have been working on. It's fabulous. Sometimes it's going to look horrible. Sometimes it's going to feel horrible. Sometimes you're going to question my sanity, and all the times I question my sanity. But the one thing that both walk away from is an update of what I've been doing to hopefully give you just an idea of what maybe you should be doing if you are building a video game, or if you're interested in what I'm building and getting just a little bit. I'm going to try to hide some details, but this is a devlog. I'm going to try to reveal as much as I can without ruining the whole setup. There's a chance there will be spoilers. So if you're along for the ride of seeing how I develop a video game, and you are going to learn along the ways how to develop a video game, or interested in what I'm building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then you're in a good place. If you don't want to be spoiled, then maybe watch some of the first ones, and then as we get going along, you might want to wait until the game comes out and you play it. That's up to you, though. And I did another video on this. I'm starting out as a software engineer and also biz dev kind of stuff. I do a lot of both of those things. I've been running a YouTube channel for a few years now called Games Revealed, and now I kind of want to mesh everything together, including my dev experience that I've had over the past dozen years. This is a combination of all skill sets and desires plus goal setting. Like, this is kind of to keep me honest too. So every week I will be going over new aspects of the game that I'm working on. It could be me going into the Unreal Engine and showing you the game. That's what we're going to be doing today. I'll do a walkthrough of what we have so far. And we'll be going over very roughly prototypes and the importance and stuff over a little bit about that. But I'm going to have another video on just prototypes, period. So we won't go too hard into it. And so, yeah, the journey is going to be fun. I'm curious, when I'm doing these devlogs, I do want to know in the comments below what progress you have made on your video game, your project. You don't have to do a project. You could have a software idea, a YouTube channel. You could do, like I said, a video game. But anything that you're wanting to make progress on, you want to set your goals. We will go over goal setting at one point in this channel. It's not quite yet on my on my list. I have a couple other things that I have planned, but I do think goal setting is going to be important. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your guys' goals are and what you've achieved this week. I'm really curious. So let's also talk about my video game. My video game is right now called Space Breach, and it could change in the future. Right now I like it, but I might meld it either into like Space Breach : Drifting, because you can kind of think of it as not a prequel, but more of a prelude to the game I really want to build, which it's becoming more and more. This is going to be episodic, probably more than anything, where this first episode of the Space Breach series, if we want to think of it that way, but we might go that route. And that's, once again, I'm going to be testing the waters with all this. It's probably going to be about a 3 to 4 hour video game. It could be longer, it could be shorter, depends on play styles and all that, and when I get to the end, depending on how much sugar I add to it, because replayability comes down to how many modes you put in, Easter eggs to find, just how fun it is to play through. Is it a little different every time, or is it just going to feel like a movie that you watch? Some people like to watch movies multiple times. So with my game, just like a lot of indie game developers, will evolve and pivot potentially. I've already pivoted a few times. I've been working on this game for a few years now, and I've gone through multiple prototypes. We're on my probably 4th prototype right now, but I'm going very slow, or at least I was, and I was being very methodical about it so that I would understand exactly what I want from this. So I've been learning from this whole process and wanting to make sure that I'm being a little too cautious. I will definitely say, like, if we could go through and maybe one day we'll do something on this topics or like essentially a topic on things to watch out for or to avoid creating your first indie game. I will have a bunch of different items for that topic. One of them is just spending too much time trying to be a perfectionist on your prototypes. So yeah, let's get back into it. Let's rein this back in. It's a sci-fi first-person spaceship survival game with maybe some horror to it. We'll see. I'm toying with the idea right now of doing 2, maybe 3 different difficulty settings where with each difficulty increase, you have less lives. Yes, it's a life-based one, which is interesting. But you'll understand once I go through the walkthrough of it. It's first person because that's my preference, actually. I love games like Half-Life. I was tempted to do third person. I still might try a third person, or maybe I'll do a third person mode. There's a lot of different blueprints and content out there to just add it real quick for testing purposes towards, let's say if I'm halfway through the game and I want to put in a mode in it that's just for testing third person, I could do that. For right now, though, it is planned to be first person, partially for immersion, and I think survival / repairability just makes it's more fun to point the tool that you need to repair than it is to try to point in a third person view. You guys could let me know. I'm sure they're like a Fortnite third person. So the survival aspect is going to be you have to limited resources and you have to repair and maintain the ship in sections of it. Then it is a spaceship. That's why I call it a first-person spaceship survival game. The next one in this won't be so much like that, so I might knock off the spaceship, but I just add that in there for people to understand that you're on a spaceship, spaceship's floating. Think of Dead Space, but in a very different role. Or I guess not. Like, you're essentially the flight engineer where you're in charge of getting the cargo to the destination, but you're also in charge of repairs and all that. Like advanced engineer trucker, let's say. So you're not like you're drifting, like I've mentioned earlier. So you're drifting through space because an event occurred where right now the narrative is you don't remember what happened. You come out of the cloner, which is we're in a dystopian world where it's, you know, the ship's so dangerous and it's so old that it was just cheaper to install a cloning system into this to it to clone you every time you died. But there was an event that occurred and it also blocked the memory system and you potentially spawn into the world. It could be a year later. It could be weeks later. I haven't come to the decision on that point yet. What is important for me right now is getting the structural first area, the tech demo area that I'm going to have in my final prototype for showcasing to players and to do the like once the tech demo's done, a lot of the game's concepts, like I was mentioning earlier, like the time frame is set in. Exactly how many areas there are will probably be set into place. The prototype that I'm working on is only in the control area, the command center, the whatever I'm trying to call it. It's not a cockpit, and you'll see where I started to think about doing just a cockpit, but that doesn't make sense. It's like a fighter jet kind of style where you just sit down and you're in a very enclosed area. That's not what this is. This is a command center, living quarters, and also your cloner system. And I don't want this devlog to go on too long. I want these devlogs to be between 10 minutes to 20 minutes, but this is a very good introduction, I think. When you can expect updates, like I said, every week, and I will try to release them on Sunday night or Sunday during the day. We haven't solidified a time. This devlog is going to be probably a day late as I'm just preparing a bunch of other stuff for this channel. So why am I doing a rough prototype? It is because I think, and I'm going to do a whole other video on this, but I do think it's important to test out your ideas, to test out concepts that you're just not sure are going to meld well. And right now, I want to test out the level design I'm going with. To not really bore you anymore without visuals, let's go into the prototype itself, and we'll kind of understand like my progress so far. Yeah, and I do use tools like Notion, just so you know. I use Notion to track my wiki. I call it a wiki. It's essentially and I have a game Bible. I think both those are really important, but my wiki is a little bit more important for me with building stuff and keeping track of what is what in the sense of mechanics, characters, and areas of the map, inspirations, a lot of different things. And a lot of this is important. I keep it in a wiki. Before I was keeping on like multiple pages of Notion and I was losing track of it, meaning I wasn't organizing it. And I try to be an organized person. Sometimes I'm not, and sometimes I am. So I force myself to do a wiki system, which has been working very well so far. Now, let's go over this devlog stuff. What am I talking about here? So you'll see here, I have Unreal Engine 5. I'm on 5.3, I believe, but I'm going to be moving to 5.4, or it could be 5.2, and I'm moving to 5.3. I can't remember exactly at this point. I will, in my final version, probably rest within the 5.4, probably somewhere there. As of right now, I plan on doing not my final version. Well, okay, whatever one I do the tech demo in will probably be close to the final version. I probably won't wipe it again, because that's one of the things that I do think is also detrimental, is starting over too often, not being perfectionist. Sometimes you just got to let things be a little dirty. And I know it's a fine balance, because some games that get so crazy, they get so dirty in how things are organized, things are created, everything, that it doesn't lend well to longevity. And you have so many bugs on the tail end to fix. So it's a balancing act. It's just like app development. The more prep you can do up front, the less you have to do at the end. But if you do too much prep at the front, you never get to the end. It's a fine line, but this is it right here. So I'm flying through. You can see this is my cockpit, became command center. It's unlit. It looks a little better when it's lit. I have a skybox right now for lighting purposes. It just helps a little bit, but I'd get rid of the skybox box when I finish the prototype, or at least get to a point where I want to test it. But like I said, it's to help me visualize stuff. Testing out different assets and how they'd look with weather effects. This is not fully built. You can see it's rebuilding some parts. The lighting isn't baked. I probably need to bake this again. And there's a lot of aspects to this that are just not quite done yet. I do have a water system that I'm working on where these corridors can be flushed out with water, which is going to make for a very fun mechanic where it could get jammed, where it's just trying to always put water. And I did have more lights in here, but the lighting was messing up. You can see how it messes up with the water pathing. And so I got rid of them. Still, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's pretty cool for dynamic water. It uses some 2D mapping tricks to help with pathing and stuff like that, but it's still pretty cool. Technically, if I have more output, it will fill up even further. So, meaning I want it to fill up all the way. And the point is, one of the mechanics at one point in the tech demo will be you have to turn off this water before you drown in the corridor. And I have other reasons or purposes to do. Another part of this, like, you could probably call this like a rapid prototype method, or like I have it in my notes as rough prototyping. I'd probably call it more, like I said, rapid prototyping, where I put in super simple assets. The doors is, I started out a little too complicated, but I've slowly moved to rapid. You can also see the water spills out over here. My mapping isn't perfect with this water. It's the Fluid Flux 2 system, I believe, or Flux Fluid system, well, one way or another. I'm working on a reactor right here, some coolant system for it. It probably will change in the tech demo. Right now, I'm just curious how it's going to look. Trying to design areas like right here, which you normally would be able to get through to the cloner through this. The ship shaking, this will probably have like, and you probably can't see it very well because, like I said, my lighting is kind of messed up. In fact, let's just exit out, go to unlit wireframes. All those can be very useful for understanding how complex certain models and areas are, especially for optimization, seeing what's going to be drawn and all that. So I have these automatically opening doors that I will probably swap out, or might tweak. We'll see. Sometimes some things, especially if it's an indie game, just have to be a little unpolished with these types of games, but I'm trying. So the point is that they're going to do kind of a Half-Life-esque thing. You have to get through the vent, go down here, go into this room, which who knows what it's going to be. Right now, I'm playing around with different concepts in this ventilation system. And you'd end up in this room, which is going to be the cloner room. And this is where you're going to start. So I'm going to put together like a big mass of machinery right here, along with dangling body bags. I've thought about having individualistic, like DNA already created cloning system for you, but I think they're going to be potentially already DNA. I don't know. It gets very technical at this point. It's this fun stuff I like to think about, but I haven't decided exactly how these body bags are going to be. If they're going to look like you, or if they're going to be like a blank slate that then gets imprinted. Because another concept of this, and this is another thing I probably need to warn people about, is that I am thinking about making this, and I have been thinking about making this since the beginning, into a co-op, potentially a 4-player co-op. Thus, the balancing act. Once I get it more into the gameplay, and I do some run-throughs of seeing how fun things are in a co-op or in a... Because sometimes when it's scary, let's say if I want to go more horror, then I might want to be careful with the co-op. The co-op can make it less scary depending with these types of games. But we'll see. Dead Space 3 is an example of it becoming a little less scary, but that was also because the devs were forced to be a little bit more on the action side of things. So, yeah. Right now, like I said, rapid prototyping. It doesn't look great, so don't judge. I put tiles down. I used the cube grid to build out this whole ship. So that, yeah, this is the one part you're gonna have to get out of. Probably where the user is going to get start is, or the player, I think in app development terms sometimes, they're going to step out of their cloner, have to find a way out of here, which is not through here, get their way into here, which eventually will start filling up with water, or maybe it's already started filling up and broken through here. We'll get to that point when we get there. I'll make a quick decision because I don't want this tech demo to be too crazy. And then either they can go in here and at least do some diagnostics. That's probably where I'm going to do the diagnostics, and some of the initial repairs has to happen from here because this is supposed to be the command center. You can see how much I've changed things around as I initially built the ship out just using the cube grid. Obviously, you can see it's also space, but when we play, it's not. It's kind of funny. If you're in the Unreal Engine, if you right click and then scroll, you can increase your speed of the camera. So, like I mentioned, this is essentially, you're a space trucker, to put it into simple terms, but you're an engineer, you have capabilities to repair. You're the evolution of a trucker potentially, but you're trying to get cargo from point A to point B. But then there might be a lot of different types of cargo that you pick up. In one of these containers, I plan on having cryostasis humans that are for cheaper travel. They are say, well, I don't care when I get to my destination, as long as it's within like a month, then you're cryo frozen and then you're dropped off eventually at your location. I think that's a fun idea. I'm going to be doing that as one of the containers. Another container could be just a bunch of, let's say, circus things for a traveling circus. We could go that route. The options are endless for these types of containers that are self-contained. One of them will probably be a weapons. One of them, surprise, surprise, will probably be the research container that was containing some stuff that may have breached into the full hull here, and that's what you have to fight throughout the game. So, in the easiest one, you might not fight much, and it's more about repairing the ship and getting off and going through those. As it gets more difficult, you have to fight both the enemies. You can see how wide it is. It's because it's the texturing and then being unlit. I'll have a botanical garden in here too, or some type of garden. I'm excited for. Living quarters will be over here, and you can see I have not built it out yet. This is a very rough prototype that I started. For some of you that might have seen this from my other channel, I've mostly been working on Wiki, fleshing out how this initial tech demo is going to go, and working on my game Bible, working on core mechanics and what I'm going to be bringing to this. So the best thing I can do right now is to really slim down on my scope, finish my rapid prototype in a very superficial manner that I can build out with detail later, just to understand, like, maybe I'll change this here. Like I said, this reactor or backup reactor is going to be probably smaller. This seems way too massive. Same thing with over here. This seems way too big. So we're going to be adding in a lot more details into those areas to maybe have a reactor plus a bunch of other components in here that are just all meant to be for running the ship itself. So I got a lot of thinking to do. I want to make sure the world feels alive, vibrant, and also I'm going to be playing with colors. Right now I'm doing all pre-made assets, but I do have a couple of ideas for creating assets in Blender is what I plan on using. The problem is I'm not a great 3D artist. So one of the things, and this is going to be a very long devlog today, but one of the things, let me switch this back on over. One of the things I plan on doing is using the tech demo to either acquire some funding or to attract a creative director that wants to. A creative director would just be someone that handles the creative art side of things. I can handle like stories. I can handle pretty much everything else. I could even potentially do some music, where I know some people that do music. But my 3D art skills, my art skills period, are not the best. And so I'm able to make good thumbnails for YouTube videos, but beyond that, I'm not the best. So I'll try my hand at it, see what I can make, but I can almost guarantee you I'm going to find a partner for visuals, bare minimum. Who knows, I might bring on another person. I wouldn't be against having a 3-person team on this, but once you add someone, just remember, once you add someone, there's both revenue to think about there, and there's also ownership and who's going to take on what. I'd almost rather pay someone outright than to have to deal with doing a partnership. I'm not against a partnership if I find the right person, but it's difficult because it gets really messy. I've done startups before. I've done other projects that are with friends even, where it just doesn't go quite how I wanted it or expected it. And that is not just on them. That is also on me. And sometimes if you don't go into it with good enough expectations, it can go awry. Once again, many different topics I can cover on this, especially when it comes to all the different aspects of. It's very universal. That would even apply in game development, but I want to especially apply it in game development so that everyone learns from my mistakes and in a very visual way if you are big into game development. I know if I'm more interested in the topic, the subtopic that it's going to be about is going to be much more interesting when applied to what I'm interested in. So that's pretty much it for my devlog update. For the next one, I'm going to have more goals put into place, and I think I'm going to work on some sketches and finalize what I want to see in my rapid prototype. So the rapid prototype is going to have a lot of, because I also need to put in mechanics and very simple stuff and kind of plan out and get all the areas that I would expect in the tech demo. Then I'm going to scrap this. I know that sounds weird. Sometimes you don't want to, but for me in this case, I'm going to scrap it, rebuild, or bare minimum scrap most of the stuff I'm adding in, and then I'm going to build some of it from scratch, and some of the stuff I'll take. So I'll still use pre-build assets. The problem that you find, though, is consistency and quality, and it can be a little jarring if things don't mesh well. So we'll see. I have a couple of ideas that I have going, but not to really make this devlog much longer. I just wanted, like I said, I want to make them shorter, but we had a lot to cover today. So let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this. I know it's long, but at the same time, hopefully it was entertaining or at least interesting enough. Let me know. Here's the thing too. I don't mind input on this, but I have hundreds of ideas already that I didn't cover. I don't mind if you have like input of like, oh, this would be kind of cool to go this route, whatnot. But remember that I'm not entitled to implement your ideas. I will try to acknowledge them, and maybe we'll even bring them up in the next devlog episode. And there we go. we'll go from there. So thank you guys for watching. Check out my other video that I have so far on this channel. And you can also check me out over at Games Revealed or The Brink, TH3BRINK. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you guys next time. Let's get this thing built. Peace out. Later.